Good evening and welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for May 25th, 2022. We're coming to you from the Cedar Falls Community Center tonight. Karen, roll call vote and we'll call the meeting to order.
Okay, Chrisman.
Here.
Gribovich.
Here.
Hartley.
Here.
Holst. Larson.
Here.
Leeper.
Here.
Lynch.
Here.
Moser. Here. Saul.
Here.
All right, thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from May 11th, 2022 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. All right. If there's anyone from the public that would like to speak on items that are not on our agenda tonight, now is the time to come forward. Seeing none, we'll move on to new business, and the first item on our agenda is West Viking Industrial Park Phase 5 final plat, and this item is for discussion and continuing to the next meeting or making a recommendation to council, potentially.
Correct.
Michelle?
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm out of order. So we're moving forward with the West Fork Crossing.
So we skip down to item 3 on our agenda? That works? The West Fork Crossing?
Is that the first one?
No, it should be the
Oh,
industrial park.
okay.
It does seem like our slides are out of order here.
There we go.
We'll start here,
There you go.
and then I'll switch this. All right, sorry about that. So the property is located east of Union, south of West Viking Road, and also west of the existing industrial park. With the preliminary plat, the city held community meetings at each stage of the planning process, including the annexation to this land and the preliminary plat. And then I would like to enter into the record an email from Michael Hager that was sent, and he is asking that we add to the deed of dedication a provision that if any trees die, that they would be required, that the property owner would be required to plant those trees. And we have some similar language later in the deed of dedication. Staff has no objection to the request. So this might look familiar because in January 3rd, 2022, the City Council approved the preliminary plat for phases 5 and 6. On March 7th, 2022, the City Council approved a contract for developing this area to do the grading and to put in the streets on March 7th. So looking at the final plat compared to the preliminary plat, we want consistency is what the criteria requires. And looking at the stormwater is consistent with the preliminary plat. They are proposing 3 stormwater basins, and property owners may choose to do on-site retention or connect to the stormwater basins. The street connections are the same. They're extending Technology Parkway and Venture Way and adding Innovation Drive. The improvements for West Viking Road will be done in a year according to our capital improvement plan. The project includes 18 lots for industrial uses and then the 5 outlots. So the Commission has the option of moving this application to the City Council or collecting comments from the public and from the Commission and reviewing the project again on the June 8th, 2022 meeting. And with that, I'm open for any questions.
All right, any immediate questions for Michelle? Is there anyone from the applicant that would like to speak to this item? Anyone from the public that would like to speak to this item? If so, name and address.
Hi, my name is Michael Hager. I live at 6830 Viking Road. I sent an email. I think a copy's been given to each of you. One, I want to take another opportunity to thank the city staff when they developed this. A budding industrial up against residential could be very challenging and problematic, but throughout the whole process, the city staff did a wonderful job of finding solutions to all the concerns that were raised. So just another chance to thank the city for the great work that the staff did. On this particular item, though, they included trees on lots 2 through 7 that provide a visual buffer as well as a noise buffer between the industrial park and the residents. There's no language in the deed of dedication about if those trees die, and we've seen some up by the Target Distribution Center there that have died and have not been replaced. There's similar language in item 12 of the deed of dedication where there's a requirement to replace anything that dies. We'd like that language copied and maybe put up in 11 to paragraph 11 to include it for the trees as well. I think it honors the long-term intent and shouldn't be a significant change. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you, Michael. Any other comments from the public? All right, with that, I bring it back to the commission for discussion. Is there any, I guess one question, anything pushing us to move this forward to council more in a more timely fashion or not?
If there are additional information that the commission wants to have, or if you want to, it's totally up to you. I don't think there's any imperative. The city's moving forward with installing the infrastructure.
Okay.
Matt, do you have any comment on that?
So right now we're in construction mass grading operations. As far as timeline goes, we would just like to be able to proceed with the final plat in order for us to start setting property pins and getting that squared away with the roadway alignment and stuff like that. So just to be concurrent with construction.
Okay. So nothing pressing, it doesn't sound like. I have heard some comments from just community members and maybe good to give it some time if there's not pressing.
Is there any information that you want us to bring back to you next time? With the final plat, the only criteria is that it's consistent with the preliminary plat. So
Okay,
that's the approval criteria. So if it's consistent,
all right.
Yeah.
Great.
So is it
Comments?
possible to add the language in that Dr. Hager mentioned and then bring it back for us for one final review?
Or we can add it now, can't we?
yeah, you can just have us add it now. I don't
Okay.
think it's
Yeah.
something complicated. We can just add the language to the deed of dedication.
Can I make a motion to do that?
You can.
Okay.
I'd second that.
So we have a motion, essentially your motion, just to clarify, is to approve this and move it on to council with clarifications that were mentioned.
Correct.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, roll call vote, Karen.
Okay, Chrisman,
Aye.
Krivovich. Aye. Hartley.
Aye.
Larson.
Aye.
Leeper.
Aye.
Lynch.
Aye.
Moser.
Aye.
Saul.
Aye.
All right, that item passes and moves on to the council. Our next item is a minor revision to the preliminary plat for the West Fork Crossing. And this is for discussion and make a recommendation to council. Michelle, you're up again.
Thank you. So West Fork Crossing is located west of the new location of the high school, north of West 22nd Street, and east of Viking Road, Union Road. So the applicant prepared a detailed exhibit with all the changes that were being proposed between the original application and the revisions proposed today. And in that, the highlights are that they are shifting Wild Horse Drive south and Bloomington Drive north. And this will create larger lots for those between those areas. Those shifts will also draw the lots to be more uniform in size. And the shift also will change the size and the shape of the stormwater basins. And then this also includes adding one lot. Now looking a little bit more detail, the top picture is the previously approved preliminary plat, and the lower picture is the proposed revisions. And there you can see where the lots in that middle area have gotten larger. And they were originally 100 by 75, and now they're 120 to 140 in length. And then the lots on the top, the northern section, have decreased from 200-foot width down to 140 to make the lots a little bit more uniform. While these are minor changes and minor adjustments, the staff recommended to the applicant to bring these forward for review and approval to ensure that the final plat will be substantial conformance to the preliminary plat, because there is some judgment called here, and it's easier to be upfront with their proposal. So moving forward, the staff report only looked at those changes with the lot configurations. The lot configurations proposed do meet the R1 zoning district, and each slot will be at least 9,000 square feet in size. The street design overall has not changed. They revised their stormwater report, and the new stormwater report meets the city standards for review. And with the approval of the application before City Council, there was 4 conditions, and staff did not want to see those conditions get lost with the revision. So staff is recommending making sure those are added into this approval as well. And again, as part of the introduction to this, there's an option of gathering more information and continue this to the June 8th meeting, or making a recommendation to City Council tonight. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
All right, any questions for Michelle? With that, is there anyone from the applicant that would like to speak to the item? Any public comments on the West Fork Crossing project? With that, we'll bring it back to council, commission.
Looks pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah, I would agree. I would move it on to council.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second to move that on to council. Any other comments? One comment, I would just, as we think about the high school and the exiting, I would just, I know we've had discussions with the district, and think about how that traffic's going to work long-term, and how we get people out. That this project may not impact that, but I think moving forward, that's something important to consider. So. All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Chrisman?
Aye.
Grubevich? Aye. Hartley?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Leeper?
Aye.
Lynch?
Aye.
Moser?
Aye.
Saul?
Aye.
All right, that item passes. Moving on to council. Next item is old business, and we have a zoning text amendment for planning zoning review of certain site plans in the CDDT. Karen, I think you're talking to us about this one, right?
Yes. So as you may recall, we talked about this at the end of March, at your March 23rd meeting, and you gave us some direction on how you would want to approach this. We proposed a number of different options that you could choose from, or any option that the commission wanted to go forward with. This was from a petition from the city council to require P&Z review for downtown character district site plans. So as you may recall, the commission directed staff that you like the idea of bringing forward an update to the commission about once a month for site plans, things that are happening in the downtown character district, and we can do that without any amendment to the code. We can just do that by practice. You also directed us to draft and bring back changes to the downtown character district code and to the zoning code in general, to require new buildings in the urban general 2, and storefront frontages to be reviewed and approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. But then other minor changes, things like awnings or signs or smaller building additions, that kind of thing can just be done administratively. So that's what we prepared, some changes to the site plan section of the zoning ordinance, and the draft of that was in your packet. I'm just going to go through the big changes. There were some minor changes in there, as you noted. There were some red line version in that, just to clean up some of the language. And then on this slide, you can see where this would affect. So it would be changes in the areas kind of encircled here, the red and the orange areas, the main core of downtown, and then the yellow areas down by 18th Street and then along First Street. Those are the Urban General 2, and storefront areas. So this change would affect site plan review for new buildings in those particular areas. So moving on, just to talk a little bit about the change. So there's two new sections in the code. There's the Downtown Character District Code itself, and then there's a new section, as you recall, about site plan review. We codified our site plan review process, which affects, site plans for all the zones in the city, not just downtown. So you see that there's two different sections that we had to amend. This first one is in the Downtown Character District Code, and you can see here gives a little bit more direction. Before, everything was administrative, and so that was covered in the site plan review section of the code, but we wanted to make it clear, just like in our other zones that do require Planning and Zoning Commission review, in those sections of the code, like the mixed use zone, the Highway 1 zone, there's a section in each one of those sections of the code that references P&Z and council review. So we did the same thing here in the Downtown Character District section of the zoning ordinance. We added this paragraph. You can see here that it keeps that first sentences, basically talks about applications shall be administratively reviewed and approved except for site plans for new buildings on property designated in those areas. So that's what the direction that we received from you. And then it goes on to say, for buildings on properties in those particular frontage areas, that the zoning administrator, and it's basically what we do for all site plans, is we send you a staff report with all the materials. And then you would review that and make a recommendation to the city council, and the city council would review and approve. Now, our practice has always been that if the Planning and Zoning Commission denies a site plan for whatever reason, you typically say why you deny it, and then the applicant is basically, it doesn't automatically go forward to council unless the applicant chooses to do so. So we've just basically codified that here in the language. All they have to do is tell us, yes, I do want this forwarded on, even though I got a negative recommendation from P&Z, I'm forwarding it on to council. So I just want to make clear that's kind of consistent with current practice, and so we've just made that change here. So this draft language, I pulled it out of the longer version that you received in your packet, but this is basically in the section on site plan review. And so basically just mimics then, it's kind of a belt and suspenders thing, what we've got going here. It references this section of the code, and it talks about the same thing. It gives a little bit more information about what's being considered, what are the criteria for review. So, and I'm happy to answer questions that you have on the rest of the draft, any of the code language that you saw there, any questions that you have. I'm happy to answer any of those, but those were kind of the big items here, the big change in the code. The rest of the items were necessary because we're going from an administrative review to what we're considered a quasi-judicial review, which is what you're doing. And so we had to change a lot of that language to make it sure it was legal and following our legal practices.
All right. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to this item? Or is this just for our review? Are we accepting public comments tonight?
I think we can.
Okay.
Sure.
Seeing none. Bring it back to the commission. Questions?
No, I think the changes made reflect what we discussed and asked for, so appreciate that. Thank you.
Was the first item when you talked about a monthly review, was that something to choose from, or was that all-inclusive? That first slide you showed of bringing to monthly a review there, maintain and current adopted, the 2 or 3, or both of those?
So 2 and 3 were the direction that the commission gave in March. Those are the things that you wanted us to do, staff to bring back. Number 2 is not something that needs to be changed in the code. That's just something we can do as a practice.
Okay.
Under number 2, it's really just informational. It's not, we can't choose to pull an item out for discussion
Right.
or anything like that, right?
Yeah, and I would anticipate, unless you have other direction, that we would bring back things such as, building additions, facade changes in the downtown, not every single sign or,
Yeah.
awning change. You probably don't,
Right.
unless you want us to bring everything back to you to
No,
look at.
thank you.
So we would just kind of give a summary of what's been submitted and under review or been approved. And then, it gives an opportunity to see how the code's working, how things are, what things are happening downtown, which may be of interest to the commission, and also give an opportunity for people to say, well, maybe that's not quite working the way we thought it was. So,
Karen, I have a question. Will, in these cases where it's not a new building, it's just a remodel or whatever, you don't send notices out to property owners? When do we send notices out to property owners and adjacent to the project?
so there's no legal requirement for
Okay.
site plan review for us to give notice on any site plan review case. But it is our practice
Right.
on anything that's coming to the commission to send out courtesy notices to surrounding property owners
So would that still happen in these
for the
zones?
new buildings
Yes.
that are coming to the commission, not for every project that comes
Right.
to staff, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I was thinking that there was a mechanism discussed where this would get reviewed after a year and maybe tamed back a little bit. I didn't see anything about that. Can you speak to that?
The question is there a time frame?
Is there a time frame where this sort of scrutiny over the process expires, or how does that work mechanically?
Certainly is up to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Are you talking about number 2 or number 3?
Well, both.
Both, okay. Well, number 2, of course, if you're, getting tired of us bringing updates to you, you certainly can give us different direction on that, or say you'd like something different. We're happy to accommodate your request. As far as number 3 goes, that would be a change to the ordinance again. But if everybody starts to feel comfortable and feels like it's too much of a process to have everything go through P&Z and council, and, that would be a legislative change and would certainly, could be initiated by council, by the commission, by the public as a code change.
I don't know what the exact vehicle would be to do so, but I think it'd be good for the conversation to come up again after a year.
Sure, we could just schedule that for, a year from now to bring it back as sort of an update and say, how is everybody feeling, how things are going, and
So
have
we
a
don't have to
discussion.
put in our own reminder. You've got a
We
way
can
to
do
do that. Okay.
Well, as with any new change, there's some unpredictability associated with it, but I think it's a good process to kind of ease into it and allow us to kind of flex a little bit if we need to, if we find something that's not working. We always have that right, I guess, anyway, but it's nice to legitimize that, maybe. I just want to remind everyone in the public that this is an effort to simplify the process for development. It's been complex. We've heard pushback on that from the public, and this is a means for doing that. And so just so everyone knows that we're trying to simplify the process, but while still having meaningful review of what comes through.
Yeah, and maybe just a comment, and then we talked about this before, is because there are more clear and objective standards now in the code, there's not quite a broad discretion or lots of debate about things, because there's a specific height standard and there's specific, very specific architectural standards and that sort of thing. So there won't be as much, how tall should the building be and how does it compare? So hopefully that review will be able to just go down and say, yes, it meets all the standards. And if you see something you have a question about, we can look at that more closely. So,
All right, I would move to approve the language and send
We
it
have
on.
a motion to, well, we're not really approving tonight, right? We're setting the public hearing.
yeah, we need to have a
Oh,
public
set up,
hearing.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so if
Move it on.
everybody's comfortable, we can,
I guess my only other comment, just for the public and the commission's sake, is that, the last review, all code sections, we'll change this a few hundred times probably over the next 20 years if it still exists, right? There's always changes. This is a fluid document, but it's a really good framework, and it kind of brings us to a new kind of start point, which you need to do because it gets a little unwieldy after so many changes. So we appreciate the work the staff has done on pulling this together. All right, so we'll set the public hearing for the next meeting.
okay. All right, very good.
All right, any commission updates?
I do not have any commission updates tonight.
Okay, with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.